special panel today with Karina, Global Head of Product Marketing for Peloton. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you today and step out of one Zoom call into a more kind of mix it up a little in my day.
Yes, I hear you. Well, I have to say I got inspired for our conversation today with a 30-minute pop ride on my Peloton behind me. So yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you today. I think I speak for, everyone in the Brand Innovators audience. You guys have been such an incredibly fast-growing brand, and really excited to kind of hear your story and what it's been like. I'm sure it's been a roller coaster over the past year and just how much you guys have kind of rocketed into the massive brand you are today. So would love to kind of start, and I know you started at Peloton in 2019. How did you end up there? Tell us about, kind of your experience starting in 2019 before, gyms closed and everything kind of went crazy in 2020.
Yeah. So I started at Peloton actually as the GM and SVP of the digital business. And the way that happened was actually very just sort of serendipitous, or a bit of happenstance, if you will, which is I used to work for John Foley, the CEO and founder, almost, 15, 16 years ago. And I was having coffee with him just to reconnect with an old friend. And he mentioned to me that Peloton had an app. And this was, again, two and a half years ago or more. And I was like, there's no way you have an app. How come I haven't heard of it? And sort of one thing led to another. And I spent some time with William, who's the president of the company. And sort of my entree into the company was as the head of digital, which is the business that I ran. And when I started, I think we had less than 100,000 members of Peloton Digital. And I think, in our last earnings call, we announced that, we had exceeded 625,000 members. So just explosive, more than 5x growth in the last couple of years. So that's been super exciting. And then more recently, I stepped into a role over the summer as the global head of product marketing. And in my new remit, I oversee marketing for all of our products, so our bike, our tread, our app, and in the digital biz, a growing strength experience. I also oversee our media practice, marketing analytics, and lifecycle and CRM. So it's a really big, exciting role that I've just been really enjoying it. So that's how I stepped into Peloton and what I do today.
I love it. Well, it certainly sounds like it's keeping you busy, I'm sure, as it's, continued to evolve. People are so in love with your products. I think it's interesting, it's become more than just a workout. It's really a lifestyle, right? I talk to a lot of my friends. I'm sure, a lot of you guys listening in and Brand Innovators have gotten a Peloton recently. As you look back, how did that happen? What are the marketing tactics that you really attribute the massive success to?
Well, I think your colleague, when we started the call, introduced you as a super freak, and I don't know if I love the word freak, but I think one of the amazing things about Peloton and about a product and an experience and a brand like Peloton is that it's something that enhances your life. Mm-hmm. And when you have a product in your life that enhances your life, an experience that brings you joy, and you develop an emotional connection, a connection that eventually transcends the product, transcends the category, right? Mm-hmm. And something that you start to really love. And it's a part of your life in a way that it just changes your routine. It changes your behaviors. It changes how you feel on any given day. And then you multiply that by millions of people. And now millions of people feel like you do. Mm-hmm. And there's just this community that swells and builds around that shared sense of experience, that shared connection. That's when you sort of transcend product, you transcend category, and you sort of step into culture and become, I think, a lifestyle. I think it's that kind of trajectory, or that kind of set of circumstances or conditions that right. Sort of get you there. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And well, I can definitely speak for myself that I completely agree with everything you're saying. As you think back to, when you started in 2019 and now in 2021, how has Peloton been able to evolve so effectively with the times and staying on top of marketing trends to be, the massive brand you guys are today?
Yeah, Peloton at its heart, as big as we are and have gotten, is actually like a very nimble, innovative, kind of entrepreneurial, still a little scrappy kind of a company in terms of it at its core. We're very, as a culture, we move very quickly. The other thing about, I think, what's helped us throughout this very difficult time actually is the fact that at the center of everything we do, every decision we make, are our members.
Mm-hmm.
And when you listen to your members, when you are obsessed with your members, you're acting, you're compelled to do things, to change, to move, to adapt based on their needs.
Mm-hmm.
So one example is, when lockdown, when New York started to shut down, our studio was shut down, and we quickly had to pivot to streaming live classes from our instructors' homes.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, all of our instructors, apartments are, turned into like live studios. But we had to do that, right? Because we knew our members were expecting fresh content every day. And some of them like to ride live, some of them like to ride on demand, some of them like to ride every day. So we always have to have something fresh, and we had to keep kind of innovating. So that was one kind of pivot that we made. Another thing that happened to us very early in the pandemic, like before we were really truly on lockdown, and it was at the time when all of those memes were going around Facebook about flatten the curve. We all have to do our parts to flatten the curve. And I remember sitting in my apartment in Brooklyn and was like, oh my God, we have to flatten the curve. We have to help
Yeah,
people,
stay home. Yeah.
keep the public safe. And I felt like we had, as Peloton, had an opportunity to like participate and provide a service and provide kind of step in and offer the public a means of flatten the curve in our own way. And that's how I came up with the 90-day free trial, right? Which was, I was like, let's just, all these people, they're not going to have, their gyms are closing. They're not going to have, not going to have anywhere to go to get exercise. Let's make our app free for 90 days for anyone who wants something, some yoga and meditation to do at home. So that was another really quick decision that we made, like without, like we were compelled to do it for the community, for our peers, for our members, and for the community at large. Those are just some examples of the ways in which I think we moved quickly and adapted, just because we felt compelled. We felt a sense of responsibility to our members of the community.
Yeah, and we have so much to unpack there. We'll get into kind of the 2020 world soon. I think one of the things that you mentioned is being obsessed with your consumers. So I know you stepped into the role as global head of product marketing. So one question I have is, how do you identify who Peloton's consumers are on a global scale? Like, what are, obviously maybe, someone's needs here in the US might be different from Australia or the UK. And how are you identifying those conversations and figuring out how to most effectively resonate with each of these consumers on a global scale?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain attributes that are consistent about our consumer across the globe, that they, work out, for example, or that they have an internet connection, right? There's certain things, that are truths across the board. Those are obvious. There are some that are a little more psychographic. Our consumer, for example, is one that's especially motivated by the experience of working out, by the endorphins, they like the experience. Some folks, they work out and it's like a utility, like I get my time in and I'm out. Or the interesting thing about the psychographic of the Peloton consumer is they actually are into the experience. The experience of working out is as important as the effectiveness of working out. And that's something we've seen to some extent consistently across the board. But you're right that the needs of our consumers in the UK or Germany or Canada or recently announced Australia are different than say in the US, where we're headquartered, and we do consistently obsess over those differences to make sure that we provide the most authentic experience for every member. So one example is that, like, Americans have a reputation. We're big, we're boisterous, we're loud, we love to cheer. We really respond to a lot of positive reinforcement and coaching, and not everybody, but like we have our
Right, right.
culture is a little bit more like that.
Mhm.
The Brits are a little more muted, like they're kind of like, oh, don't yell at me, and
Yeah.
they have
Let me
their
work
more
out in peace.
they have a little more of a they have a different sense of humor, or different styles of teaching that they respond to, and that's why we have global instructors. We have instructors who teach out of our London studio, and that can connect with those audiences in a way that's authentic to them. Similarly, like in Germany, obviously, it's not just about language; it's about feeling like an endemic part of of the community there. And then
Mhm.
in Australia, one of the things that we're thinking a lot about is the Australian market. Australians are really into fitness.
Yeah.
I'm like so jealous. It's like you're born, I think, when from the womb, right?
Right.
Australians
It's just
are,
sunshine and fitness
yeah, they
there.
love sport, they love exercise, but one of the differences there is that like a lot of that activity happens outside because the weather's so great. And so we have a bit of a job to do to show Australians what kind of an experience they can unlock at home, and
Mhm.
why the home could be this amazing place to get an incredible workout that's fun and social and effective.
Yeah,
When the consumer that is, for the most part, used to doing all their sport outdoors. So
for
there,
sure.
each country brings with it its own kind of nuances that we have to adapt to.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think it must be fun in your role too, keeping you on your toes, knowing always trying to kind of like stay ahead of what the consumer is looking for. You also mentioned your instructors. The theme today is the age of influence. How have you guys been able to leverage your instructors more than just, you get on the bike and have someone to lead you, but on, social media beyond, they've really become like, it almost feels like Cody Rigsby is like a friend of mine, right? Like, how have you been able to really leverage these awesome personalities to help market Peloton?
Oh man, they are incredible, aren't they? I mean, it's a rigorous process. Like what Jen Cotter, our chief content officer, does is incredible in terms of identifying and cultivating incredible talent. But then you have to have the talent too, right?
Mhm.
Our instructors are physically incredible, like what they can do. They go through a tremendous amount of training, and they feel a tremendous amount of responsibility
Mhm.
as trainers, to show up every day and bring health, fitness, well-being, um, into every member's home. At the same time, you're right, they all have different personalities. Some are
Yeah.
funny, some are a little more serious and feel like a life coach, you know um, and that that's about kind of letting them be that, be step into who they are, express themselves, um, and form those relationships. I don't think you would have that kind of relationship with Cody if he was just instructing you.
Right.
If part of it wasn't the personal anecdotes, the jokes, the music, and oh, it's my song, and
For
like
sure. Yeah.
really feeling his presence, and it not being quite so rote, right? It's like
Mhm.
it really is. Each class is completely different than the last.
Mhm.
Because if you think about it, without them and without all that personality and that, I don't know. When I used to go to the gym before Peloton, it was a pretty mundane experience. You're just on the routine. Okay, I'll do my 20 minutes of this and 20 minutes of that. And sometimes you're just like, your mind is elsewhere and it's hard to be present. Whereas
Right.
with Peloton, right, because the experience of being clipped in, and then you have this guide taking you on this journey, and the music's pumping, and it's like the time goes so fast.
Yeah.
And that's not just because you're getting an incredible workout. I think it's also the power of their personalities.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, it's like speaking for myself, it's obviously I want a good workout, I want that physical health, but it's almost like just as much about mental health, right? And so I think especially, we'll get into shortly about, 2020 and kind of the toll it's taken not only on like just the world, but also like the health and fitness industry. And I think, being able to step away from your computer, all the Zoom fatigue, and just like jump up on your bike in the middle of the day is so great. Another thing we talked about was, obviously you have your instructors and they're great influencers themselves. How else have you been working with, I guess, influencers or ambassadors? I know you mentioned like a, partnership with Beyonce, who's not an influencer per se, but, big personalities to really represent your brand. And what's that strategy look like?
Yeah, I would say it's a bit, I would say the partnership, and yes, she's not in it. She's an icon.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're so fortunate in that so many influencers or celebrities are already our members, and they love the experience. They talk about it. We never feel the need to or desire to pay anyone to talk about Peloton. And I think that's part of what makes us authentic, is that the word of mouth is natural. It's organic. It spreads, um, and it finds its way into culture. And we don't like to manipulate or manufacture that.
For sure.
But we do form partnerships with individuals, companies, celebrities, icons who we think are just interesting and have a voice that we love to shine a light on, and that feels aligned with the brand. Music is a super important part of Peloton. You probably feel it. The music is a big part of the experience. And so the partnership with Beyonce was just very natural, because she was the #1 most requested artist on Peloton. So it started with the members. The members said, "Give me Beyonce."
Yeah.
And so we were like, "We got to go get Beyonce. The people asked for it." So it wasn't like, who's influential? Yeah. So it wasn't like we were sitting around like, who's influential that we could, that's not how it goes down. The members said, "We want Beyonce." So we were like, we got to give the people what they want, just like you said. And that conversation then actually expanded, because one of the things also that was important to Beyonce and is important to us is social impact. And that's why, as part of the partnership with Beyonce, which includes music and fashion, also included the donation of 2-year memberships to students of HBCU colleges, which is, Beyonce wanted to give back to HBCUs. She wanted to celebrate homecoming, which was obviously impacted significantly by the pandemic. And so part of the partnership was also about giving students who had no access to gyms and facilities, and athletics were canceled and games were canceled and homecoming was, and give them Peloton. And so that was like a really organic way in. And it wasn't like born in a boardroom where we were sort of trying to brainstorm who's an influencer that we should call. And similarly, like Shonda Rhimes is an icon that we've partnered with, and she's a member, right? And had something to say about the year of yes, and unlocking your power, and that's so natural for Peloton. That's such a big part of who we are too, right? Becoming a better version of yourself. So the partnerships that we enter into come from a place of like, where is the common beliefs? What do we achieve together? Yeah.
I love that. We have someone from the audience saying, "Love Shonda." So, it's really lucky for you guys. It's true. It's like, everyone can really be a member. So it helps to have, such an awesome product that celebrities and influencers are going to be talking about organically. So I want to shift over. I think everyone, is dying to know what it felt like to be leading marketing during 2020, where, there's a global pandemic, there's social unrest, there's crazy political environment going on. What has changed, for you guys in terms of marketing and, this new massive demand for at-home exercise equipment? What has it been like kind of leading Peloton during this crazy time and having to adapt so quickly?
Well, yeah, there's like a lot of questions in that question. I'm going to unpack them. Well, first of all, we obviously demand spiked pretty quickly when lockdown started to happen, and people craved exercise, and initially we stepped back on marketing a little bit, certainly paid advertising, because the organic demand was pretty significant. And our job then adjusted a little bit to, we had a lot of new members very quickly. And so then it was very much about, like, how do we make sure they have an incredible onboarding experience, and how do we show them the world of Peloton? And in the summer, we ran something called Peloton, where we invited all of our members to take challenges together. And then we donated also $1 million as part of that to food banks in 4 different countries. As you know, because of COVID, a lot of people lost access to food services.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing we were really focused on, is how do we welcome all these new members and get them onboarded and get them sort of experiencing Peloton the way that, members who didn't get their bikes during a pandemic might, for example. We also, the thing about Peloton is it is a considered purchase, right? So a lot of what we were focused on in the sort of mid to lower funnel is making sure that people who were aware of Peloton really understood what the product did, its benefits. Even people who are ready to buy often have questions like, will it fit into my space? And so then we have to answer some of those questions. We still have to remove some of the barriers to purchase. And so we did have to adjust, sort of what are the messages and where do they show up when, because of the pandemic. With regard to, I think you had mentioned social unrest, that hit home pretty hard for Peloton.
Yeah.
We are a really diverse member community, and we're a really diverse workforce. And after George Floyd's death and some of the other events of the summer, we were hit pretty hard as a community and as a workforce, and very quickly responded with the Peloton Pledge and our commitment and stance to fight racial inequality and to be an anti-racist presence. And as part of that, we committed $100 million over the next 4 years to invest in initiatives that get us that advance the intent of the pledge. So, for example, $20 million of that $100 million will go to nonprofit organizations who fight for social justice. Immediately, right out of the gate, when we announced the pledge, we also donated $500,000 to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. We're also investing significantly to diversity, equity, and inclusion programs inside of our company. We've raised hourly wages for all of our hourly workforce. So there's quite a bit of a just immediate jump into action last summer. And that was really, as a human being, like an employee, like super rewarding and gratifying to be part of that journey and to do our part. So.
Yeah, I love hearing, and we had actually a question from the audience, how is Peloton looking to continue a force for good social impact, sustainability? So it's awesome to see what you guys are doing kind of on the back end, right? The initiatives you're doing, but also, as a member, I know I go on and see there's whole classes themed for Black History Month or Women's History Month. So it's really bringing it onto the platform and the experience of Peloton as well that I think is so important, right? For, really bringing on inclusivity and diversity. So you guys have been doing great work there. Another question I have for you is I know you talked about, how important it is to understand the consumer and understanding their values and needs. What kind of tactics are you taking to figure that out? Are you doing social listening? Are you talking directly to the consumers? What does that process look like for understanding what is most important to them?
All of it. Yeah. I've never worked at a company as sort of hungry for data as Peloton, and I've worked in a lot of data rich companies. But yes, we are, we of course do social listening. We do tons of market research. We talk to consumers all the time, all throughout the organization. Like our product team talks to consumers, obviously, when they're testing product. Our marketing and consumer insights team talks to consumers when they're trying to understand their needs, and how they might respond to our experiences and our marketing communications. So all the time. And then we have a marketing analytics and a practice and several other data teams that are constantly monitoring behavior, performance, et cetera. So we are a pretty data savvy company, and we spend a lot of time looking at all sorts of KPIs that signal to us that we're doing right by our members. One example is NPS. Our NPS scores are off the charts. CSAT, our membership team obsesses over those scores to make sure that the thing about Peloton, as you noted, it's you love it. Like it's and so we want to make sure you keep loving it, and everybody who flies after you loves it just as much as you do. And so and that's why and how we've managed to maintain such incredible retention rates among our membership. Nobody ever turns off Peloton. It's incredible because, and that's because we're always listening. We're always absorbing data. We're always asking how we could do better.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I recently read I think a New York Times article on Peloton and how obviously I live in the social media world, and it's so interesting. I feel like we all have these different like facets of our personality, like who you are on Instagram, who you are on Twitter might be a little bit more like sarcastic. And then there's like this different personality you have when you're on Peloton, where I'm like, I literally like feel like Beyonce, right? So I think it's so cool that you guys can figure out how to understand that part of the consumer and how to speak to them. I think as you look back on 2020, what are some of the most important takeaways you learned in terms of being able to adapt quickly? I know, like one example you mentioned in our earlier conversation was hiring people and letting them do what they do best, right? I guess what are the most important takeaways to you, and how do you maintain innovation while also control the brand?
Well, look, I think on the innovation piece, it's just in the DNA. The company's just at heart, like always trying to best itself and come up with, it's just incredible. Our product and technology teams are constantly dreaming up stuff. I'm like, I don't know, that sounds amazing. If you can build it, I guess that's incredible, so it's just in the DNA of the company. But again, as I mentioned, because everything starts from the member in many ways, like what do people need? What do people want? What are they telling us is missing in their lives? And how can we meet them where they are with products, experiences, content, instructors, music, partnerships that continue to like bring it all forward. And we're not happy where we are. We always want to do better. As far as the brand, I mean, the members are the brand, but in many ways it's about again, I think we feel like if we continue to do right by our members, the thing about Peloton and what I think makes it so special is that combination of hardware, software, content, and community. When those things come together, that's like when all the magic happens. That's when you turn into whoever you are on the bike, your own version of Beyonce, right? When you're on this incredible bike or tread, and when the music's pumping and Cody's cracking you up and the community is high-fiving you and your metrics are showing up on the leaderboard and you hit a PR, it's the combination of all those things that like unlocks the endorphins and makes you happy. And I think that experience is very brand defining for us. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I love that. Well, awesome. So it's 2020 under our belt, and hopefully, the light at the end of the tunnel. Looking ahead to 2021, what are some of your predictions for the exercise industry? As gyms start opening up, what are your predictions? What do you think is going to carry over from 2020 into, the future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited for stuff to open up. I think we all are Peloton. Like, I've never told a colleague I miss them so much, despite speaking to them every day, just because
Yeah.
I think we all crave some more life back to, IRL, if you will. But as far as trends, predictions, the thing about Peloton and the at-home workout kind of phenomenon is it actually was happening well before the pandemic. Like Peloton was growing 2x year on year before COVID, right? Yeah. Because I think lots of consumers figured out and started to understand that working out from home is more convenient. Mm-hmm. That with Peloton, you can get a killer workout, a great workout, maybe quite often a better workout. Mm-hmm. And it's an incredible value on $1 per workout basis. It's way more cost effective than going to a boutique studio, right? And paying on a per class basis what we pay with Peloton for a month. So people were already figuring that out. I think lockdown or COVID, I should say, accelerated that the awareness and realization as people started to just proactively look for those solutions. But that truth has been there all along. Right. And so we just got there faster. Mm-hmm. Just because the movie theaters open back up, is everybody going to cancel Netflix? I don't think so. I think there's, some consumers might head back to their old routines. I think many of them have realized that they could do it better for less at home. Mm-hmm. But I think that COVID just really accelerated a trend that was already happening. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure lots of folks are gonna start to experience maybe a hybrid of at home and some out of home stuff. We'll see where it goes. There's a lot of research that shows that, at least 1 in 2 consumers say that they do not plan to return to a gym, for example.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see how that happens. I know for myself, I used to always go to classes and use ClassPass, and I think there is a nice combination of doing both. But I do have to say, in the remote world, being able to get on a 30-minute workout in the middle of the day is just such a nice added benefit to the work from home.
Yeah, you wear your pretty blouse on top, you got your sweats on the bottom.
There you go. Yeah, I was like, no one needs to know what workout equipment I have underneath.
And you're on your bike. Totally, nobody knows.
Oh, I love it. So yeah, another question, I guess, moving forward is, I feel like everyone is kind of talking about Gen Z. How do we reach them? How do we move quickly enough? What are your plans your marketing plans to reach new audiences like the younger consumer?
Well, I think we already are. I mean, from a product perspective, I think younger consumers are quickly discovering our app. But actually, we've seen a big trend of our connected fitness customer getting younger and younger. So that's been really fun to watch, the demographics shifts as younger people embrace connected fitness and embrace Peloton. I do think that because of some of our partnerships like Beyonce or Adidas, or and the presence of Peloton and culture in those ways, and then again, the incredible music partnerships that our head of music always brings to the table. I think those kinds of things. I'm not saying that they don't appeal to older generations, but I do think that they are seen as high value to younger consumers who, again, really value the experience, not just the efficiency of the workout. But yeah, and then we also have some things in the works that I think will excite
Oh.
the younger folks. But one example on the tech front, like it's so simple and yet so profoundly helpful is, we obviously have our mobile app, but then a couple of years ago, we also built an app for Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Chromecast. And those started to unlock a lot of audiences as the sort of people started to say, oh, I could do yoga in front of my TV at home, or I can go for a run outside with Peloton in my pocket. I think that kind of ubiquity, the unlock, the sort of multi-platform experience has also brought a lot of different audiences, including younger people.
For sure. Awesome. Well, I'm going to bring in wrap in some of the audience questions as well. What has been one of your favorite campaigns or initiatives to work on at Peloton?
Well, I did love the 90-day free trial initiative. It wasn't a campaign. It wasn't like there was no meeting that happened where like, let's have a campaign. It was sort of like, we needed to respond, but I loved it because I think it showed the heart of the company in a lot of ways, and people responded really well, and it was just beautiful to watch. I also really, the New Year campaign that we just ran, I thought it had a Beyonce song track in it, and I loved it. It was a really fun New Year campaign that really spoke to the motivation of Peloton, how Peloton motivates you to show up. Motivation is a thing, right? When you want to work out, like some days you're like, I just don't feel like it. And then probably one of my other most I'll actually give you three more. Sorry, I know it's a lot. You only asked for two, but it's hard to pick a favorite because I love them all. I was really excited when we launched Bike Plus in the fall. Bike Plus has so many cool new features. The swivel screen, the auto follow. It's such an incredible product. And then we were able to lower the price of the original bike substantially. So it just made that OG bikes that much more accessible. And that was really thrilling. And the response in the market was tremendous. And then lastly, we recently launched the new tread in the UK and Canada. I'm excited for it to go on sale on May 27th in the US. But that campaign's incredible because it does such a great job of showing how it's not just a treadmill. Like with Peloton, your tread is a total body workout. And we have these incredible boot camp classes where, you go on and off the tread and you get a total body workout. You get the strength, you get the cardio. It's the best boot camp in the biz. And that campaign does such a wonderful job of highlighting this sort of comprehensiveness and power of the workout and of the tread. So I love that one too.
I love that. Well, we have a minute left. I have another comment from the audience. So excited about your recent partnership with Adidas. Another, you kind of mentioned some of the just Peloton brand campaigns, but you obviously have so much going on with other, with partnerships. How important have those partnerships been, or how have you been selecting the right partners for Peloton?
Well, again, it goes back to our members. A lot of the time it's like what they're asking for. But sometimes people come to us too. And there's just like this serendipitous, like the ESPN ride we did was just like this fun collaboration that happened with ESPN because live sports was gone, in the beginning of COVID. And so that just, some things just become inspired. It's not like a science. Yeah.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Karina. I know we have Chris here to do
Chris
transition. I was like, I could keep asking questions.
I'm the wrap-up music at the Oscars. And let me recant, it's not super freak, it's super fan, and evidenced by this is literally what is behind her on every conference call. She didn't say, let's move this in here today. This is real life for her.
It's not a background like the one that I have. It's real authentic Peloton. I love it.